This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated with a video about one of my blog postings called An Umbrella Policy's coverage is not auto insurance. Umbrella insurance is only obligated to provide indemnity after the underlying insurance is exhausted. Anthony Desmet appealed from the summary judgment granted to Scottsdale Insurance Company on his claim alleging that Scottsdale had acted in bad faith in refusing to fulfill its responsibilities under the excess underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage in its umbrella policy. In the case entitled Anthony Clarence Desmet versus Scottsdale Insurance Company, a decision of the United States Court Appeals for the 10th Circuit dated June 24, 2022, the 10th Circuit was called upon to determine if an umbrella policy that provided excess uninsured motorist coverage was auto insurance. Scottsdale, in its motion for summary judgment, invoked a provision in its policy that excused it from liability until Desmet exhausted his uninsured motorist coverage under his primary motor vehicle liability policies. The United States District Court for the Western District of Oklahoma held that the exhaustion provision in Scottsdale's policy was valid and enforceable, and that even if it was not, Scottsdale's reliance on the provision was not in bad faith. The decision was based on the following facts. On March 5, 2018, Desmet suffered severe bodily injuries when his vehicle was rear-ended by a vehicle driven by William Akehurst. Akehurst's only automobile liability insurance coverage was a policy issued by State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company, which promptly paid its $50,000 policy limit. This was insufficient to fully cover Desmet's damages. If the liability limits of a motor vehicle are less than the amount of the injured insured's claim, that vehicle is classified as uninsured in Oklahoma. Such tortfeasor drivers are commonly referred to as underinsured motorists. At the time of the accident, Desmet had 3 separate motor vehicle liability policies covering several motor vehicles. Each policy provided $500,000 in uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. In addition, Desmet had an umbrella policy with Scottsdale. An umbrella policy is a type of excess insurance policy. Excess coverage is provided when, under the terms of the policy, the insurer is liable for a loss only after any primary coverage, other insurance, has been exhausted. The Scottsdale policy provided $2 million in excess liability coverage to supplement coverage provided in Desmet's automobile liability and homeowners policies. An endorsement in the policy stated, quote, "It is expressly agreed that liability shall attach to Scottsdale only after the insurers of the underlying insurance have paid or have been held to pay, whether collectible or not, the full amount of their respective uninsured motorist and or underinsured motorist liability," close quote. The term underlying insurance referred to existing motor vehicle liability policies carried by Desmet that were listed in the Scottsdale policy's declarations. Unhappy with the handling of his claim by one of his motor vehicle liability insurers, Desmet requested that Scottsdale step down and pay the claim itself. Scottsdale responded logically that per the terms of the policy, Scottsdale would pay only after the underlying limits were exhausted. Desmet sued in Oklahoma State Court on March 3, 2020, alleging that Scottsdale's conduct surrounding its refusal to pay amounted to a breach of its implied duty of good faith and fair dealing. The suit Desmet filed included the following statement, quote, "Plaintiff is not bringing an independent or separate cause of action for breach of contract, only the tort cause of action for the breach of the implied duty of good faith and fair dealing. At the time he sued Scottsdale, Desmet had received no payment on the uninsured or underinsured motorist provisions of any of his 3 automobile liability policies. The district court ruled that Oklahoma case law was clear that the requirements of the uninsured motorist statute did not apply to umbrella policies like the one issued by Scottsdale. It further held that because the underlying claims had not yet been paid at the time of the suit, there was no basis for Desmet's allegation that Scottsdale had been acting in bad faith, and it granted Scottsdale's motion for summary judgment. The Court of Appeal discussed the facts and stated that to show bad faith in Oklahoma, it's not enough that an insurer resists or litigates a claim. There must be a clear showing that the insurer was acting unreasonably and in bad faith without withholding payment. Thus, Desmet would need to show that Scottsdale had clearly violated its responsibilities under the umbrella policy. This is a standard he could not meet. The Oklahoma Supreme Court has held that an insurer that provides uninsured motorist coverage is required and governed by statute section 3636 cannot rely on a provision in its policy that permits withholding payments under the coverage until the insured has exhausted all other uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. It ruled that as between the insurer and its insured, uninsured motorist insurance is primary coverage. That is, the insurer is liable without regard to any other insurance coverage available. Unfortunately for Desmet, Section 3636 does not apply to the Scottsdale umbrella policy. The Oklahoma Supreme Court has repeatedly said that umbrella policies are not motor vehicle liability policies of the type governed by Section 3636. The leading case, Moser v. Liberty Mutual, was decided by the Oklahoma Supreme Court in 1986. The court responded that, quote, the uninsured motorist provision of Section 3636 apply only to automobile liability insurance policies, but not to umbrella policies. Desmet does not contest that his policy with Scottsdale was an umbrella policy. Scottsdale was entitled to rely upon the Moser line of cases and was not acting in bad faith when it assumed the legitimacy of the underinsured, uninsured motorist provisions of its umbrella policy. As a result, the Court of Appeal affirmed the United States District Court's grant of Scottsdale's summary judgment. In my opinion, I can understand Mr. Desmet's impatience with his auto insurer's delay in paying his claim, but that does not allow him to sue his umbrella insurer, asking that it ignore the clear and unambiguous conditions of its policy, rather than suing the auto insurers who failed to pay his claim. Rather than act reasonably, he sued Scottsdale and failed to sue those insurers who owed him and who had failed to pay. If they pay, and if they finally exhaust their limits and he still has injuries that need to be recompensed, he can then make claim against Scottsdale's umbrella policy. His actions suing Scottsdale for not dropping down and doing what his primary insurers, the auto insurers, were required to do was illogical. And in light of the Oklahoma Supreme Court precedent, he wasted the court's time. This video was adapted from my blog, Zalma on Insurance, which is available at https://zalma.com/blog. Thank you for your attention.